Okay.
All right. So my expectation, and correct, and you can chime in with what you'd like to achieve today, but certainly my goal is to do a walkthrough of the digital economy portal, the DE portal that we've set up to support the Small Business Growth Program, and basically just give you an overview of what it's for and how it works, and answer any questions you have, and as well we can talk about how we got it set up for STN. Is that the primary goal of our meeting today?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that we've all had a chance to view this before, because we had the recording before. So I think
Right.
a little bit of focus on the scorecards.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, we can actually open up some scorecards from inside the portal when I log in,
Good.
and as well as what we call our coaches reports, and have a look at some of those. Okay. So, and if I need to, I can open up some other examples, but hopefully we'll get the gist of it that way. So I know, Jill, you, and I'm not sure who else has seen this before.
Me and Carrie.
You and Carrie, okay.
And Carrie.
All right. So some of this is going to be repetition. For so I won't spend a lot of time on the slides. I will just use them by way of introduction, if that's okay. And why don't I just blow this up into presentation mode, if I can. There we go. Yeah, so this is the portal for the Small Business Growth Program. And the program itself, as I'm sure you know by now, is really a process of taking people through a self-assessment through an online assessment tool that you've already been promoting and giving people access to collect their information about how they're currently using the internet for their business activities, how they're benefiting, if there are any particular barriers they have, and also, when they're willing to share information about to what extent what they are currently doing is financially benefiting them or not. And all that information gets collected, and we process that information and give them some feedback through the scorecards. So this is being the assessment, the scorecards, which we deliver via the portal. And then within the portal, and I'll show you this, we have the financial impact calculator, which allows you, when you're working with businesses and talking with them, to kind of go through different scenarios and options around, well, what would be the potential financial impact to their business if they adopted doing new things online, whether it's maybe, they haven't got a website yet, or they want to get into selling online, whatever the case may be. They also have access to some online e-business learning modules that we make available, and these are to help provide insights and guides to businesses who are considering doing some of these new things and taking them on. And at some later stage, we have the opportunity to go back to those businesses who have actually implemented some new e-solutions, as we call them, some of these new online business activities, and gather some information to assess what impacts they actually have. So that's what we call impact tracking. So the portal itself is really, and the whole program actually is designed around helping businesses make a decision, and so it's kind of a business decision approach to the program. So not to be overly repetitive here, we've got the business assessment, which is as I described it, really about how are they currently using. In the process, we actually create awareness. When you start asking questions, people start thinking about the answers and thinking about the questions as well. That in itself increases awareness of what they maybe should be thinking about. And then we have the scorecard that will provide feedback, and it's really not only providing information, but hopefully providing good motivation to look at how are they doing relative to their peers, what are the kinds of financial benefits they could potentially achieve. And But that only goes so far, and businesses who are motivated will need some form of help. Maybe it's just information which they can access through the business modules. They may need some various levels of coaching help. They may need some further technical help, and we've been talking to you, I think, about how to engage potentially technical advisors locally to help businesses on their specific needs to actually get some of these things done. But really, you got to make a decision first that there are things I can do, there are things I should do, there's reasons I should do them, that they're financially beneficial for my business, and then you got to translate that into taking action. So that's just kind of in a nutshell what the program is about, and the Digital Economy Portal is an online portal to facilitate a number of these things in terms of accessing information, in terms of using or accessing the tools, and so on. Before I actually go into the portal, any questions or thoughts on that?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we'll jump right into it. This is, I'm just going to move this over a bit. Can you see that okay, or do I need to make it bigger? Or
I can see it.
Okay.
Everyone.
All right. So this is the login registration page. As if you can see it up here, it's customized, for STN, and this is your URL, which you should already have. So hopefully you got this bookmarked. So this is where everyone associated with your program would log in, whether you're an individual business who's got a scorecard, or at a client level you can log in, or each of you individually will have your own logins, and so that you can access the information for the businesses that are basically within each of your counties. Okay, so I'm going to log in as actually a business first. I actually just did this. I set myself up as a test business. So when you see this in the list, just remember this is me. You'll see my name there, and you'll actually have my phone number, so that's an added bonus. So that's the username I set up. And by the way, actually, you feel free to log in. If you want to see the business view when you log into a portal, I just used STN test, and the password is test. There's no confidential information because it's just the test account I set up. Okay. So when you log in as a business, and you'll see when we log in with the client access, which and the same thing for the coach's access, you'll see the same welcome screen and the branding and everything else. When you log in as a business, this is where a business would actually, of course, I'm a test business, so I don't actually have a scorecard in here, but they would be able to access their scorecard and essentially either click on that or just view scorecard, which I won't do right now because there isn't one for me. But they also have access to a, and I'm showing you this so you know what they see. This is actually a page that describes for them, well, what is a scorecard, right? So it gives an overview and description of each of the main components of the scorecard, and we'll have a look at one of those. We'll actually look at a real one, then blow it up in size so you can actually read it. But there's also a list of frequently asked questions here. So we've tried to address, and help an individual business appreciate and understand and hopefully answer any questions they have about the scorecard, so that when they're looking at it, they actually have this as a resource. They also have access to the e-business modules, and I will just open this in a new tab. Have you looked at the e-business modules yet yourselves?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I won't go through these in detail, but only to show you that as a business, when you log in, you can access these modules, and of course you can click on each individual module, and then there's a bunch of topics that they can explore and get an understanding, appreciation of. I'm not doing, for instance, I'm not selling online now. What is that all about? Is it really for me? What are the different aspects that I should be considering for my business? And it's a online learning module, so it's a resource they can use and access. If they hadn't taken the assessment survey, you can actually link to the assessment survey from within the portal and take the assessment. And basically that works the same way as if they take it from an external link that we provide to them. There are also some additional information resources about the portal itself to, again, help them understand what's in here, how it works. We talk about e-solutions. There's some just very, very brief description of what each one is. Again, help when they see an e-solution listed on their scorecard, this at least gives them some brief explanation of what it is. And finally, they have the opportunity to submit a support request. Let's say they're looking for help, they want to set up a meeting. This is an online method that they can actually send a request which you as coaches would receive and be able to respond to from within your access to the portal. So it's another facility for facilitating communication between a business and the coach. Okay? Any questions on the business view of the module? Of course, if they have multiple requests, they would be able to see all of them. But again, I don't have any in here for this test.
Do we, is there a way for us to get a notification, or do we actually have to log in and look at this to get the request? You
will receive a notification that a request has been submitted, and it will give some of the content, like the subject line. Not sure if I can't remember right now, quite honestly, if it gives you the full text of the request. It's been a while since I did it, but you do get a notification. That is an option. We can turn that on or off. By default, I leave that on. That's one of the reasons we also needed your contact information. So basically, you have one coach representative of each county who will receive those requests. So that's the email it's going to go to.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then, of course, that's a trigger for you to you can log in, and I'll show you the support request view from your login access after I log into the client and coach view of the portal. Any other questions on that? Okay. So I'll log out of that view, and I'm going to go in what I refer to as the client level access, which really basically gives you access to all of the businesses registered for STN across all of the counties. Okay. So and password. Okay, I guess I didn't type it in properly. There we go. So as I said, this welcome page looks exactly the same. It is exactly the same. And I didn't scroll down, but it really is, again, an overview of the portal, what's in here. And but as you can see on the left-hand side, now we have a different menu of items. Some are named the same, but they actually show different things. Some are exactly the same, such as the e-business modules. So I clicked on that, and you would get the same thing I just showed you. I'm going to go through these one by one, and we're going to start with businesses. So what that does, this is actually going to present to you, as you will see, a list of the businesses registered in the portal for STN. So the way it's laid out is this table below is a list of all the businesses. As you can see, under the what I call DA. DA is just a generic term we use for delivery agent. So each county is a delivery agent. So you can see the county names listed here, right? So this includes all the businesses across the 3 counties that have been registered. For the most part, we at SNG have registered these businesses based on them completing an assessment. But they can self-register and take the assessment, as I mentioned before. So those are 2 options. Certainly, if you proactively go out and reach out to businesses and invite them to take the assessment, we'll gather that information, we'll process it, and as part of our processing, we will actually register the business and let them know what their username and password is. Alternatively, they could take the assessment and then decide they want to register themselves, or they could just register and then take the assessment. All of those cases work. So you have those options in terms of how you invite people into the portal and how you invite them to take the assessment. What this page does is a number of things. First of all, it gives you the list, and it is sortable. If you want to sort by business name, by date created, which is the date they were registered, do they have a scorecard or not? We all, so one of the things we provided here is a very quick way for you to see, does this business have a scorecard? And if you actually click on it, and let's see, I guess it doesn't matter which one we pick. If you click on this, it actually opens up that individual business's scorecard right away. So that's very quick access to their scorecard. Rather than go through the scorecard right now, I'll leave this open and we can come back to that. So the other thing that you can do on this page, certainly you can, as it says, add a business. This is really very similar to the registration form that you saw on the login registration page. It simply allows you the opportunity to actually register a business yourself. Let's say you were talking to somebody in your office, you told them about this program, they said, yeah, I'd like to be part of that. You could actually go in and put their information here, set their username, password, collect their information, submit it, and they're registered in the portal. That's an option. The other thing this allows us to do is, I'm trying to find, here's the one I added as a test. So again, no scorecard. There's my name, and you don't see my phone number here, but I'll show you where you can find that. You can click on edit, and you get all of the information up here. So let's say somebody who had registered is no longer with that company, or they changed their phone number, or changed their address, or whatever the case may be. You can go in and edit that information, submit it. So that gives you access to the list of businesses. You can also export the list of businesses, and that basically exports the whole list that you have access to into a CSV file. So if you wanted to use that list as part of your, let's say for sending emails or for any other purpose, you could export the list. There's one other menu item under here which you don't need to use, but we have the option of, if clients prefer not to have businesses automatically registered, that they review those registration requests before they're actually accepted into the system, and that's what this is for. From a practical standpoint, that never really made a lot of sense, but we actually, did want to at least have the option of doing that. So you've been set up so that any time a business registers and they put a username, password, and complete the registration form, they automatically, immediately have access to the system, and they get an automated confirmation email from the system that they've been registered. So I'm just pointing that out. You never really have to look at that. Any questions on the business list menu? And
I'm good so far. How about you guys?
I'm good.
I'm good too.
Okay.
Me too.
Great. Okay, moving on to the next menu item. Actually, I won't open this up. It's exactly the same as what I showed you on the from the business login. I actually included it in your view so you would be able to see what the businesses see if you ever had to refer to it. These two menu items are really guides and intended to assist you either in using the portal itself, which is mostly under what I call client support. So it's a user guide. Accessing the scorecards, using support requests, managing the users like I was just talking about here. Assisting business clients is more oriented towards how you apply some of these tools in terms of how do you provide coaching assistance to businesses, how do you use the scorecards, what's in the business modules, how do you use the impact calculator, which we'll go through very shortly. And also, of course, making sure you've got a plan in place on how you're going to manage all of these things internally. Once you get a lot of businesses participating, how are you going to do those things? So that's what's in here. I can go through some of these things if you want, but certainly feel free to look at them yourself. I'll just go to the first page here. This is what I affectionately call a funnel diagram, and literally it is kind of a funnel as you think about it in terms of collecting participation through various stages of the program. So in the first instance, you're reaching out to businesses, inviting them to participate, inviting them to take the assessment. Those that do, or those who choose to register, are going to be a subset of those, and some will take the assessment, some will get a scorecard, some will then look at the business modules, and then some of those will need some more help, and so they're going to be looking for assistance of some sort. Some of those will then go take it to a next stage where they actually start doing some action planning to actually adopt some new solutions, to do some new things online or enhance what they're already doing online. And then at the end of the funnel, you actually have businesses who have implemented some new online applications, so using the internet in new ways for their business, and you want to follow up and measure the outcomes so you actually can see through all of these efforts that this program is actually achieving things, and that the businesses themselves are actually seeing that they've achieved something through this. So probably one of the most important things is, again, accessing the scorecards. So as you've seen, there's a number of businesses who have scorecards already, and this page, when you click on the scorecards, in your view, gives you basically a search window. There's various ways you can search for businesses, or for scorecards for businesses. There may be a specific business that you're looking for. You can type the name in, but the most convenient way is to go down the list of the businesses that are registered. So I could look for that one that we just opened up, for instance, and it will give me that specific business with some additional information. So when was their scorecard actually loaded in the system? When did they actually, it says survey date. It's an old word we used. We call it assessment now, but basically when did they take the assessment? This is a link to their scorecard, which I already opened up from that other view. This tells you whether they actually accessed their scorecard or not. Now, fortunately, that wasn't me accessing their scorecard, it was them. So basically, this individual actually logged in and accessed their scorecard on February 14th. Now, if they hadn't accessed it, this would be blank. That's important information for you to know. Have they actually accessed their scorecard and looked at it or not? This is, and I'll change the name of this, but when we call it detailed report, that's the coach's report. And I'm going to open this right now for this same business, which is why I picked them. And hopefully, there it is. So this is what we call the coach's report. And I will go through this again along with the scorecard in a few minutes. Okay. Finally, you got the first name and last name of the individual. And if they provided a phone number, in this case there's no phone number here, probably most likely because they didn't provide it in the assessment. So when we registered them, we didn't have their phone number. But if they did have a phone number that they provided, you would have that immediately accessible if you wanted to use this window to find businesses that you wanted to actually follow up and call. So that's finding an individual business. There are other ways to search. You can search by date that they accessed their scorecard. You can search by date they took the assessment. You can search by date range they took the scorecards were uploaded. So this could be useful, for instance, if you were monitoring this on a, let's say, a weekly or bi-weekly basis. You can just say, well, was anything uploaded in the last week or last 2 weeks? Okay. And then there's some shortcuts. So if you want a quick view of who hasn't viewed their scorecard, you can just... So that may be useful if you want to kind of plan on doing some follow-ups with businesses who haven't looked at their scorecard yet. So you can see there's a number of businesses here who have had scorecards, have been told they have scorecards, but haven't gone into the system to look at them. And as you can see, some of them have phone numbers. So again, you may want to say, well, I want to make a plan to follow up with these businesses that haven't looked at their scorecard yet. Similarly, you can access those who have viewed their scorecard. Again, you want to follow up with businesses knowing whether they've looked at their scorecard or not. And of course, you can just click and view all that have scorecards, and you got both. Okay.
Gary?
Yep.
Quick question. I'm looking here. Typically, how long after they complete the assessment does it take for the scorecard to be available?
We try to do this on a weekly basis. So if we have a completed assessment, or whatever assessments are completed, say by a Monday morning, our goal is to have them loaded into the system by Thursday of that week.
Okay.
So it's possible it could be, as little as 4 days, and potentially a little more than a week, depending on when they actually complete the assessment.
Okay. And then, I don't recall, did you say, do they get a notification once it's, like, will they get an email saying your scorecard is ready?
We have the option of automatically notifying them, or yeah, not, and that's certainly your choice more than anything else. What we do is, let's say we have 5 or 6 scorecards that we basically, when we upload them, we just create an upload file of all 6 scorecards, and once they're loaded in, as soon as they're loaded in, an automated email will be sent to the business saying your scorecard is available, and it gives them the URL to log in. Of course, they need to have their username and password, and they should have it at that point. Now, as you know, people don't necessarily keep those things in a place they can find them again, but again, we got to maintain security for login. So
is there, just so I get a little more background, when in between the time when they submit the information and then you have to do something manually to get the scorecards up, are you just checking the information to make sure it's complete, or is there I'm just trying to understand the back end of this, what this looks like.
Well, basically what we do is, first of all, the business has to fully complete an assessment to get a scorecard. So we are only working with fully completed assessments, so they should have provided all of the information that was requested. Then we process the data, make sure everything's good. Okay, so we do some automated as well as some manual checks of the data they provided. But for the most part, the answers to the questions that we use to produce the scorecards and the coaches' reports are as given. But we process that information into our system, and we also, there's actually a range of different types of scorecards that we produce, which I can get into. But we use the appropriate scorecard template for that particular business type, based on that business's responses. And we do a manual check of that before we load them into the system, make sure everything's good.
Okay. The reason I ask is if we get a question from someone, the way things are nowadays, people want to fill out the form and they want the instant answer, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Why if I'm doing this now, why am I not getting my scorecard right away? We have.
Yeah, from a technical logistical standpoint, to answer your question, I'm not saying this is what you would tell a business, but just so you understand it.
Right.
The assessment tool is basically, it's a survey instrument. We have a survey platform that collects that information, and that's it's very straightforward for us to use. But when we download the data from that, first of all, we have to put it into another system in order to produce a scorecard. So the survey-based system cannot do what we need it to do to produce a scorecard. That needs to be produced in another system. So regardless of what we do in terms of, if anything, in terms of data cleaning, we have to take that data and reprocess it in our business intelligence platform, which is where we produce the scorecards. That's how we add the additional data and information into the scorecards and produce it in a format that we can deliver it. So we've automated it as much as we can, but there are some manual steps we have to go through. And so it can't be totally automatic and instantaneous in that sense.
Right.
And that's why we do it on a weekly basis, so that we're not doing them one at a time, because we have to go through all those steps for every one.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's helpful. Thank you.
All right. And it also gives us the opportunity to do that manual quality control, right?
Right.
So would this be a good point to, unless there's other questions about this page, to have a look at the scorecards?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So let's start with the ones I opened, since I open them. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way of separating these into two separate screens, but we'll look at the scorecard first. So as you can see, these are PDF files. The scorecard is a one-page document. Okay. This is what I would call our kind of normal, standard scorecard template. And when I say that, this is going to be applied to the vast majority of businesses. And I probably won't be able to find an example on here, but I can show you an example of different scorecards if we have time. I'm just looking at the time, and we're 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I'll just describe the differences. But what's in our basic scorecard is, you can read the text, just an introduction, name of the business, city and state, their industry sector, and their size range as they've reported it. We show them their score and the score for their industry, as well as a graphic to kind of visually show where they sit relative to others in their industry. And then we also calculate what percentage of businesses have the same or higher DEI score. So this is kind of hopefully a little bit motivational in the sense of where do you sit with respect to your peers in your industry, and where do you sit relative to the average score for your industry. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of a visual clue, a little bit of a dashboard for them. And then in this section, which is really, I think, where the meat is, is based on how they've responded to the assessment. We've identified the top 3 e-solutions that they are not currently using and quantified the average financial benefits for other businesses in their industry and size range. what that means is, first of all, it's based on averages. So it's indicative of what the average of their peers are achieving with respect to using these e-solutions that they are not currently using. But it may or may not be in line with their specific business, because as I'm sure you know, you could have many businesses in this industry and size category that have a whole range of levels of revenue and levels of operating costs. We can only work on the averages because we don't necessarily know what their particular business is doing, but at least it will give them something that is kind of a benchmark that they can compare to and use as a starting point. Again, it's intended to really be motivational, to say here's some opportunities, things you're not currently doing that can have a significant financial benefit to your company. And of course, we do have the contact information here, which will be different for each county. So that's been set up. So this one happens to be for Chemung, right? I think. Oh no, maybe not.
This is to Ben, and so this is an example of one of the scorecards that need to be changed to Carrie's name and to. We talked about instead of having Southern Tier Network.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, at the time we did this, we didn't have that. So these scorecards that are loaded in were as they were done at the time. Going forward, definitely, you know, those each of your names will be on the scorecards for each of the counties. So, I guess that was a question I needed to clarify: is do we have to go back and reproduce these scorecards for these the ones we produced prior to the decision to have the different names for each county?
Well, if they're not automatically receiving it, I think that Carrie could touch base with them and say, you know, I'm your contact. It's, you know, it's not Bill Cosby. And that might be logistically more, you know, it might be easier to do that rather than going back to traditional scorecards we already have.
Yeah, and there's not a huge number in there at the moment, and going forward, definitely, you know, the names will be on there, and you will be able to see when you log in with your individual county access which businesses are associated with your county, because that's what we do, right? So, quite right. That wasn't a good assumption I made, but this was Chemung, because your name was on all of them, Jill. So
I know.
Okay, so but at least you'll know which ones are yours based on when you log in. You know, with you know, like Steuben County, for instance, you'll see which businesses and which scorecards belong to you. Any questions? Okay. Before I explain the difference in the other scorecards. Any questions on this so far? Just looking at the time as well. Are we good if we need to go over a little bit?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm good too.
Any questions on the scorecard?
No.
Okay. So before I move to the coaches report, what we've done actually quite recently, and it's been implemented. When you have a high DEI score, what that means is that you're actually using most of, if not all of, the e-solutions. One of the implications of that was when you have a DI score of 10, that means you're using all of the 17 e-solutions that we've identified. And there really are no top 3 to report because, well, you're using them all, right? So rather than just tell people, great, you're doing great, maybe you want to, you know, still look at what you're doing and make sure you're maximizing your benefits. We've kind of turned it around in the sense of we're actually reporting back to those businesses. Here are the top 3 for your industry and business size. Here are the top 3 e-solutions that you are using, and here's what your peers are achieving. So it's similar in the sense of what we're doing here, which we're saying here's the ones you're not using. What we're doing is we're providing them a benchmark with what others are doing with the same e-solutions they are using. So that gives them some food for thought to say, well, are you kind of achieving that level? They may or may not know that, but at least it may open their eyes to, well, hey, I should, that's what my peers are doing. Maybe I should be considering how we're doing with respect to, say customer service and support or whatever. So that's one of the changes that we made. So there will be a different it'll look very, very similar to this in all respects, except what we'll be listing here are the top 3 e-solutions they're currently using as opposed to the top 3 that they're not using, and providing that as a benchmark for them. Similarly, when we have between an 8 and a 10 DEI score, again, they're using most of these solutions. There may only be 1 or 2 that they're not using. So rather than list 1 or 2, again, we're listing the top 3 that they're currently using plus the top 1 that they're not using. So we're kind of giving both pieces of information. Does that make sense? We feel that they'll make the scorecard more useful for those high DEI businesses. Okay. So I'm going to move to the coaches report real quick here. This is really intended for the coaches. That's why we call it a coaches report. It's not something we send to the businesses, although there's really no reason why they shouldn't see it, because this is really based on the responses they gave in the assessment. But it's really more intended to provide you as kind of a supplementary information to help you really have a more meaningful discussion around the scorecard. So if you look at this business with Bridge Composites Professional Technical Services, and you'll see that the top 3 solutions are customer service and support, website for the organization, they don't have a website, and advertising and promotion. Okay, well, interesting that they don't have a website, but okay. When you look at this report, what you'll be able to see is not only the top 3, but how they responded to each of the 17 e-solutions. They're all listed here. And what you'll see is, no, they're not currently using those, the customer service and support, online, website for the organization, and what was the other one again? Advertising and promotion. But what you'll see is they said they're planning to. This is useful because, the other possible responses, and you don't see them here, but they can say currently use, plan to use, no plan to use, or not applicable. You may have a different conversation with that business when you're looking at the scorecard or even following up discussions with them about website for organization. If they say we're planning to, well, then you just go, well, what are you planning to do? Why are you planning to do it? When are you planning to do it? That sort of thing. But if they say not applicable, well, you're going to have a different conversation, right? So why wouldn't you think of having a website is not applicable for your organization? Or if they have no plan to do it. So this is really intended to give you a little bit of insight based on their assessment responses that can help you have a more meaningful, productive conversation with the business. Does that make sense? A resounding silence.
No, yes, no, I got kicked off.
Oh, okay.
I just came back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Similarly, we provided 3 other kind of what we think are key responses. One is about how they view the benefits of using broadband in terms of benefits to e-solutions for their business. What's more important or less important to them? Again, it gives you some color and context of how they're thinking about using the internet for their business. What may be their bigger motivators versus other things, right? So reaching new customers and clients is very important to this particular business. Lowering operating costs is not as important. So you start to get at their motivations and what may interest them and motivate them to do whatever they may do. What are the barriers to adoption as they see them? And this could be on a scale of very important, which none of these are, somewhat important, not important, or not applicable. And finally, and this is, I think, maybe of these other three, the most important one is, what are their barriers in terms of expertise issues? What we find is, and we actually see a lot of this in terms of critical barrier to progress, especially for small business. They lack time, they lack expertise, they lack resources, they don't know how to get to it. To a large extent, they don't know what they don't know, and they don't have time to find out. They may not have the confidence to find out. So how do they view what is critical to them? Of course, overcoming barriers, if you want to really take them from a point of kind of motivating them and showing the opportunities to taking action, overcoming barriers is one part of that. So having some visibility of this in relative terms, what's more critical versus challenging but manageable, or they may say not an issue, gives you that information. So again, you for each and every scorecard, there will be an accompanying coaches report that you can access through this scorecard search engine. Any questions on that?
Gary, this is Rebecca. I do have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. I'm looking at the e-solutions that are listed for this particular industry sector.
Right.
And it says PCT period revenue impact. What is the PCT stand
okay.
for?
Oh, sorry. So that's a shorthand for percent. I didn't cover those two columns. So it's percent revenue impact. Okay.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the coach's report. So for the industry sector of professional and technical services, really out of the 17 e-solutions you recommend, half of them have no bearing on potential revenue for this sector. Right.
And probably generally speaking, that's not going to, the percentages will vary, but the allocation based between revenue and cost savings, these will vary by sector and size. Some of them are really not considered to be very impactful on the revenue, but more impactful on the cost savings. This is based on the data we've collected. So yeah, this would be a percentage of your revenue. This would be a percentage of your operating expenses. As you will see, the operating expenses as a percentage are generally speaking much lower, and that's what we found through our research with the data that we've collected. But relatively speaking, these are based on the averages. So these are more operationally oriented e-solutions. They have less financial impact, although they do have more on the cost saving side than, and certainly not on the revenue generating side. But that's what these numbers represent, and they are again, as you would have, when you in relation to this being the top three. In fact, even in the order they're listed here, you'll see that it's really based on the sum of these impacts, but these are in the same order. These are the top three. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on either of these reports? Okay. So, just cover off two things here, actually, really quickly. Support requests. Again, we won't see anything here. If you did have any support requests and you did receive a notification, you would see them listed here. And then you would be able to click on that request and it would open up. Unfortunately, I should have put an example in here so you could actually see it. But it would open up into, let's see, I've got it in. Where is it? Support requests. I'll just refer to this. And this is going to be hard for you to see, but basically, if you opened up a request, I don't know if you can see this very well, but you would see the original request, who it was from, all their contact information, so you'd be able to follow up with them. We got a little area which we call kind of administrative notes, that you can keep your own notes about that request. Only you can see them. And then a space where you can actually include a response to that individual business, and they would see that when they look at their support request. So it's kind of a way of communicating back to the business. You can also, there's also some status information that you can update here. So basically, you can go in, look at the request, update it, respond to it, and update the status and save it. Okay. Newsletter management, just ignore that. I'm going to remove that. We were thinking of incorporating into the platform kind of an email distribution system, but we found that was not only difficult for us to do, that most people don't really need that because they have some method of doing that. So, and there was really no practical tie-in to anything we were doing, like the support requests. So, it really is not a function that is currently active, and we'll probably just be removing that, if you were wondering about that. But the idea, we called it newsletter management, and maybe you want to send notices out to your contact list or to the businesses that have been registered. But last but not least is the impact calculator. So while this is opening up, and it's actually opening up a window from our business intelligence platform, and it's an interactive tool that we've set up for you, we decided, and most people agree when they've seen it and understand, where and how and why we would be using it. We've made this available only through the coach's access or the client access, as opposed to making it directly available to individual businesses. It's a tool that's not difficult to use, but is best used with a little bit of guidance and conversation, as opposed to just a do-it-yourself tool and you don't really know what you're looking at. And where do the numbers come from, and why should I believe this, and what does this really mean for me? So this is accessible by all of you through your access, and essentially what you got here are 2 pages. One is going to give you a summary, once you do the selections, which I'll show you in a second, of the estimated financial impacts or benefits from each individual e-solution and the total based on their existing e-solutions, their existing uses for the Internet. The second page is where it would estimate, well, what is the estimated benefit from any additional e-solutions that that you may be considering to take on. Just for reference purposes, we will show the average DEI for their industry and size based on the selections we're going to make here, as well as these are the actual selections that these calculations are based on. So the way you use this, this area up here, which I opened up by clicking on this up arrow, and you can close it that way. Actually, I clicked on the down arrow to open it and the up arrow to close it. These are essentially filters, or they're called prompts, but they're filters to allow you to select and input certain information. So one of them is called select your characteristics. 4 basic characteristics. One is industry. So you can select from a pull-down list. These are the top-level North American industry classification codes. So there's about 20 different industries here. This one is just so that we actually have some numbers when you open this up. It's defaulted to professional and technical services, but you could pick any of these. Let's pick retail, for instance. Employment size, anything up to 499 employees. And by the way, when we produce scorecards, and actually the reason it's limited to up to 499, and it's the same applies to scorecards, is the only category above that basically is 500 or more employees, which is an open-ended category. And We don't attempt to calculate financial impact factors for that range because, quite frankly, two reasons. We don't have a lot of data from large businesses to use, so the reliability of any averages is less. Number two, it's such a wide range and open-ended range that the averages really don't mean that much. So we chose to limit it to up to 500 employees. If you do have a business that takes an assessment and they report they have more than 500 employees, we will not be producing a scorecard for them, just so you know. But we've really targeted this and named it as a small business growth program, so it's not really our target anyway. And there's a lot of other reasons it's really not our target. Okay, so you can select the business size here, let's say 5 to 9 employees. And this is where it starts to become a tool that you can make more relevant for that individual business. This is not a survey. This data, this information is not being captured anywhere. It's not being retained anywhere. It's being calculated on this page as long as you've got it open. So if a business told you, well, I've got 10 million in annual revenue and maybe I've got 7 million in annual operating costs, we're going to do our calculations of the impact based on those numbers. So this makes the calculations much more relevant to that particular business because the numbers are going to be sized to that business's revenue and operating costs. Then basically what you would do is we've got 2 other boxes here, and you just check off, well, which e-solutions are you currently using? What are the things you are currently doing online? And you can check off, various things. I'll just pick a few. Let's say they've got a website already, and maybe they're considering selling online and doing advertising and promotion online, just for the sake of argument. So you check off which ones are existing, and you check off which are the new ones. And, obviously you don't want to check the same thing in both lists because it's either existing or new, but it doesn't prevent the calculations. It just doesn't make sense to do that. You hit the apply button, and basically it's applying those settings and filters. You can close that up to get your real estate back. And it calculates the results. Okay. So basically what's in here, it's showing you the contributions to revenue and cost savings and the total benefit, which is basically the sum of those two things, for each e-solution for retail trade with $10 million in annual revenue, $7 million in annual operating expenses for retail trade in the 5 to 9 employee range. And in summary, it's also showing what percentage of peers are currently using these. Again, peers in your industry and size range, right? So 79% of businesses, retail businesses in the 5 to 9 employees have a website. Of course, this is just a summary, which is the totals rolled up here. And this is the current DEI score based on these 4 e-solutions. On the new e-solutions, we picked 2, and again, you can pick as many as you want. You may want to have a discussion and say, well, you could do all of those things because you're not doing them now. Let's look at which ones have the greatest impact. If you were to do advertising, promotion, or selling online, you can see that for advertising and promotion online using e-marketing, 65% of your peers are doing that, and 58% are selling online. You're not, presumably, because that's why we picked them as new e-solutions. For your industry and size range with your revenue and operating expenses, you're looking at potentially 1.1 million if you did both of those things in total benefit to your business. Again, based on averages, but those averages apply to your annual revenue and operating expenses. The additional add to the DEI, if you did these things, as 1.4, which would bring them up to a total of 3.3, which is still below the industry average of 6.4. But at least they're be starting to move in the right direction. But more importantly, potential significant financial benefits. Now, obviously, you don't do these things and achieve those benefits day one, and this is annualized, but it shows the potential over the long term of what they could achieve. Any questions on how to use this or what it's for? Or where the numbers come from? Or? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I'm doing all the talking. I know it's a lot to absorb sometimes, but if you do have any questions, certainly welcome to answer them. As far as what's in the portal and using it, that pretty much covers everything. Did you have any other questions? Is there something I didn't cover that you were wondering about, or?
I don't think so. I think, as long as we're all able to get into the system and see who's taken the scorecard or who's taken the assessment, and then access their scorecards, and then sort of go from there. I don't know if every business will have to get into this much depth, going through the calculator and all of that. And I guess maybe, we had gone over with Michael and Robert last week. We had gone over the metrics form.
Right.
And so, how does that fit into all of this?
Well, that's something we're discussing on how best to integrate some of these additional things into the portal. So there's a couple of things and I know you have been in discussions with Michael and Robert about these things as well. One is the tech advisors, right? So
right.
we have a form to invite consultants and vendors to become tech advisors and work with you to engage with businesses on an as needed basis sort of thing. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is to that process of inviting people to become tech advisors will be separate, but once we collect that information and that you're satisfied with who's on the list, so to speak, is two things. We want to be able to present the list to businesses. So this would be something that we would be adding into the portal that when businesses access, they would have access to that information. And on the admin side of it, from your client access, we would like to give you similar to what I showed you with the businesses, to be able to add or edit information about the tech advisors. So you'd be able to maintain that list through your client access. So that's one thing. The other thing you mentioned, the gathering the estimates and other information as you're engaging with the businesses. We haven't had as much discussion about that as to how to collect and provide that information back to you. Obviously, we're collecting it in a form that we've set up, and we'll be able to download and basically collect that data in some form. The obvious form is that will actually be downloaded from the system as a kind of an Excel or CSV file. How we provide that to you and whether it's through the portal or not is something that we haven't quite sorted out yet, and certainly probably have more discussion with you on that.
Okay.
So we're we're continuing to evolve the capabilities as we evolve some of these processes, to really make it much more cohesive and all-encompassing across all of these different aspects. I should mention before I leave this screen, which is why I didn't yet, both of these reports, and one of the reasons I put them on individual pages is so they can be printed off, on a single page, and they can be exported to PDF. They could be exported to PowerPoint, and you can also export them to Excel. Not you necessarily want to do that, but you could. If you were working with a business and they actually wanted a copy of this, you could export them to PDF, print them off, or send them to them by email. Once you close this, all of this is gone, right? As I said, this is not retained in the system anywhere. You're just working with interactively with some reports. If I leave this and went back in here, it would go back to the default settings, and you'd have to put these reselect all these things. Okay, which is not. I mean, that's the way it's intended to be used anyway. So we're not. One of the important things is we're not behind the scenes capturing confidential information that the business doesn't know about. It's not captured anywhere. It's not retained. Okay. So anyway, did you have another question with respect to the? I'm not sure even what we're calling it. Kind of the impact form or the estimation form that we were talking about.
Okay. And just so everyone knows, the information for the tech vendors, all of the assessment for them and collecting their information is going up on STN's website within the next day or so. So that should be available.
Okay, so you are putting that up on your own website?
No, it's going on STN's website.
Oh, STN website. Yeah, okay.
Where we have the business assessment.
Okay. Yeah.
It's Robert here. Sorry for the delay in getting on.
Oh, hi, Robert.
Technical difficulties. Microsoft Updates decided to reboot the computer.
Oh, nice. Usually it gives you a choice, doesn't it?
Well,
unless you're not at your computer.
No. Well, I postponed it earlier, and then when I was trying to get on, I think I just got on, and then it rebooted. So.
Okay. I was just going to say, I mean, we don't have to close the call, but if we're pretty much done, I should stop the recording.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
we should stop it.
All right.